I'm the head locust. I'm being interviewed here to make it a matter of record. I go back to 1919 when I was born, and this was in the suburbs of Philadelphia. My mother was from Pennsylvania. She was English in lineage in her background. And then my dad came directly from Belgium. He was born in Belgium. And his name was Fernon. That was an unusual name, Fernon. And he was raised a Catholic. And here comes some people in that could interrupt the story, maybe.
That's all right.
Anyhow, my mother she was a Protestant, and she was a piano player. She had taken lessons earlier and was very good at playing the piano. And they had a piano in their room where we were born and raised. And she would play the piano every night when my brother and I would be falling asleep. We'd hear her playing the same number over again. It was a cantata, piano cantata. Hello, I'm being interviewed. You're interrupting an interview.
Don't make up stuff.
All right, good to see you. That's a good friend, Art. I've known him for years. At any rate, I can still remember some of the music she played way back then. And if I had a decent voice, I'd sing a little of it for you. But nevertheless, we learned that music real well because she played it every night, going to sleep. And my mother she was bound and determined to convert my father from being a Catholic too. And she had a lot of influence. And she did convert him. And we were tickled to death that he was able to be over to that persuasion. And we can still remember the grace that we said at the table. For these thy gifts of love, we give thee thanks and praise. Look down, O Father, from above, and bless us all our days. That's it. And we taught that to our children too at first while until they were able to bring up their own versions. We had a pretty good life in the area there in Philadelphia. We had an apartment where we lived, and and one of the things that disturbed us all was my father had an industrial accident just about the time I was born, and he lost these 3 fingers on his left hand. An awful time. And later in life, he always had a sense of humor. People would say, "How did you lose those fingers?" He'd say, "I was reaching for the last meatball." At any rate, my brother came along about 2 years afterwards, and I didn't accept it very well. He was just competition for me, but he was a fine guy, and he later became a Marine, fought in the war. But what else was there to tell you about the early life? My grandmother was living nearby, my mother's mother, and she was up in years. She kept employed. She would keep house for ministers of the gospel, and I'll never forget. Some of the ministers would not let her work on Sunday. She had to prepare their Sunday meals on Saturday. But the big part that I remember about her, when I was 12 years old, suddenly at Christmas, she gave me a brand new alto saxophone. And me or my parents didn't know where in the world she got the money for that. But that was just fantastic, and I was just out, I was, well, by this time I was around 12 years old, and my neighbor, and probably best friend, was Bud Eckenroth. They were Pennsylvania Dutch background. He was, his father was a musician during the war, and he had a job in Philadelphia as the director of the Philadelphia Rapid Transit Company Band. And he had a son about a little bit older than me, and at any rate, he had him and me go with him to the band rehearsals, and we were the only children there. And we learned to play our instruments with some help from those men in that band. And it was a large band. Some of them were ex-Sousa band players. And we rehearsed every Monday night, and it was quite an experience. We also had, they'd march in some of the parades that they had in Philadelphia, the Mummers Parade on the New Year's Day and that sort of thing. And when we got older, we were able to march with the band. And it was a good experience, and we learned to play our instruments that way. And he also started what he called the cadet corps in the town that we lived in, suburb of Philadelphia. And it was a boys' club type of thing. We had military uniforms, so they were white pants, and I forgot what we had. Well, I don't know what we wore on the tops. But he had a band that was formed with children at that time, so we got to learn more about playing. And then the big event that we had was it was in the Lutheran church where we met. In the summertime, he'd get together a camping trip out in the suburbs of Pennsylvania, and we'd go out there for about 7 days with tents, and they took our instruments with us. I don't remember taking the instruments with us. That was just a summer, usually it was near a creek or we could do some swimming and that sort of thing. And before I get too far, I need to mention that we had a third brother that arrived. He was about 10 years younger than I was. The sad part about him was that he was just a wonderful kid. Long about when he was 10 years old, we went on a trip to Washington's crossing of the Delaware River. And it was a famous place during the Revolutionary War. There was swimming there. There was a swimming hole. There were a lot of people there, and no lifeguards. The first thing he did was dive in. This was awful. He hit his head, obviously, but he was gone. And this was an awful thing for us. There were no lifeguards there. And he had a checkmate on his body, and there was no water in his lungs at all. At any rate, that affected our family mildly. My dad didn't have any money to pay for the funeral thing. I still have the paper that the undertaker kept his payments on that funeral. He paid some of them whenever he could. It took me a couple of years to pay it off. she had us going to Sunday school and church all the time up till then. And then she dropped out just a particular terrible. At any rate, we overcame it. Things brightened up. The school we had was very small in the suburbs of Philadelphia. It's called Lansdowne. That's East Lansdowne. East Lansdowne was mixed to Lansdowne. And it was like going across the tracks because Lansdowne had big houses, East Lansdowne had small houses. And it really seemed we felt that very much. East Lansdowne was only a small borough, they called it then. And there were probably no more than about 18 or 20 blocks. That was that. You walked across the street to another town. No distance between them. They were just one after the other. And at any rate, can we have a break?
Sure.